Over the next 2 decades, baby boomers will pass down roughly $84 trillion. It is the largest intergenerational transfer of assets in history. This chart illustrates a bizarre economic collision. On the left, we see that towering wave of incoming wealth. On the right, we're looking at the generation set to inherit it, a demographic currently burdened by a massive spike in short-term microdebt, while simultaneously holding the lowest financial literacy scores on record. To understand the debt side of that equation, we look at buy now, pay later services. While about 21% of all consumers with a credit record use these pay-in-4 loans, for borrowers between 18 and 24, these purchases now make up a staggering 28% of their total unsecured consumer debt. Looking at this user profile data, we can see the real issue is stacking behavior. 63% of these borrowers aren't taking out a single loan. They are stacking multiple simultaneous pay-in-4 loans on top of one another, and 1/3 of those users are actively juggling these payments across multiple different providers. Because lenders rarely report these small installments to nationwide credit bureaus, a vast amount of consumer debt is accumulating entirely off the official books. It creates an invisible debt load that financial systems cannot easily track. The people taking on this invisible debt are often the most vulnerable. Nearly 80 pay-in-4 installments have become a necessary survival tactic for young adults who find themselves locked out of traditional financial systems. That behavior is driven by intense environmental pressure. 63% of Gen Z cite the cost of living as a top stressor, and 42% are living paycheck to paycheck. Entering adulthood right now means fighting intense economic friction. With nearly 1/3 citing housing costs alone as a primary barrier, the financial pressure to stay afloat compounds rapidly. This brings us to a critical vulnerability. When tested on standardized financial literacy, Gen Z answers an average of only 43% of questions correctly, the lowest score of any generation. But that score isn't a reflection of apathy. Young adults are being forced to navigate a highly complex economic environment without a foundational map to guide them. In fact, they are highly proactive. Despite the mounting pressure, 66% of Gen Z are actively cutting expenses, budgeting, and trying to save. That resilience is exactly what's keeping them afloat today. But the skills required to scrape by from one paycheck to the next are vastly different from the strategies needed to manage the massive economic windfall heading their way. By 2033, $16 trillion of boomer assets will change hands, escalating to that full $84 trillion by 2045. The primary recipients of this wealth will be Gen Z, millennials, and women, who are projected to control over 2/3 of U.S. assets by the end of the decade. As they take control, the entire wealth management industry is being forced to evolve. The focus is shifting away from purely return-based investment models and towards strategies that prioritize sustainability, family legacy, and social impact. There's a sharp contrast between a generation currently juggling invisible microloans to buy groceries and the complex multi-million-dollar family trusts they will soon be expected to govern. Closing the financial literacy gap has become a prerequisite for managing global economic power, moving the stakes far beyond the immediate need to escape small debt. The first step is to stop relying on invisible, off-the-books debt. Transitioning toward traditional credit-building activities establishes a verifiable financial footprint that lenders and institutions actually recognize. Checking this credit report visualization annually to dispute errors is critical. Once set, leverage the IRS Savers Credit. This tax credit shows how the government offers a 50% match on retirement contributions, effectively handing you $500 for a $1,000 investment. Utilizing these basic tax advantage tools builds the resilience needed to start thinking about long-term wealth management. By mastering these financial fundamentals today, the generation currently overwhelmed by the cost of adulting can step up to become the prepared architects of tomorrow's economy.